Welcome to the Cosmic Business Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Sophia Pallas, and this podcast is for soulful entrepreneurs who want to harness the cosmic power of astrology to elevate their message, unlock flow, and attract their best clients ever. Join me every week and get excited to discover how you can use the energy of the cosmos to get the business breakthrough you've been waiting for. Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Cosmic Business Breakthrough. Today I'm trying something a little different for me, and that is to record a podcast episode on the fly. And why that's a big deal will make sense to you when we talk about the topic of this week's episode. And that is your processing speed, your thinking speed, the way that you communicate in business and the way that you process information in your day-to-day business activities, right? So I have a Capricorn Mercury. We've talked about Mercury, the planet Mercury, in other podcast episodes, and I'll probably do another deep dive on that soon. And this episode's going to touch on that a little bit. But what's really important to know about your Mercury, or the place, the zodiac sign that you have Mercury in, is that it's going to give you some really interesting information about how you process things and also how you communicate. So something I've noticed, because I worked as a copywriter and I still work as a copywriter now, I work with a lot of different entrepreneurs and their writing style and their ideas. And when I work with people who have a fire sign Mercury, or just a lot of fire in their chart, their processing style is really different from mine. I sometimes find that I need to switch gears a lot when I'm working with people with fire sign energy, in particular fire sign Mercuries. So the thing about fire Mercury is that it's quite a speedy Mercury. It's quite a fast processing speed. People who have this fire communication signature will have really quick insights and they'll want to implement them straight away. So I was having a chat about this with my lovely virtual assistant this week, and we were talking about clients who have fire energy and how quick they want to move on things, how quickly the ideas come and how quickly they want to move on them. And I think that's really important to know about yourself if you have a lot of fire energy in your chart, or if you have a fiery Mercury. If alternatively you have an earth sign Mercury like I do, and just to recap, the earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, and the fire signs that we've just talked about would be Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. But if you have an earth sign Mercury, or you have a lot of earth in your chart, you are much more of a methodical thinker. And I like to call myself, and a lot of my clients have heard me call myself this before, I'm a percolator. I can't take action on information immediately. I need to process it. It's like it needs to filter through my system. And something that I find really useful for myself and for my clients who have Earth Mercury is writing things down. In particular, if you have a Capricorn or a Taurus Mercury, you really want to kind of process the information almost like it's coming through your body and out your fingers as you're writing it down, typing it, or preferably writing it, handwriting it. That really helps to ground the thoughts and actually move them through your body. That has helped me when I'm learning something new. It's helped me when I'm trying to plan things out in my business. And it helps me when I'm working with my clients, that I actually, as I'm listening to them, I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes by hand most of the time, because that is the best way for me to process information. And it's the way that I retain information. And this is another thing to know about Earth Mercury and Earth processes, is that we retain information really well. And the same goes for water. Water and Earth Mercury people have this ability to retain information. And often for the air and fire Mercury people, the information comes in and goes out really quickly, so they don't necessarily retain it. They don't have the same memory for facts, the same memory for just general information. You might need to actually have a really good system of note taking to remember specific dates, times, client information. Whereas I can meet a client once and I will remember most of their birth data. Once we've had a session together and I've processed their information, it stays in my mind. And that's not the case often for people who have an air or fire sign Mercury. Their mind will see it as kind of unnecessary information and they'll move on and make more space for the fresh ideas to come through. So that's another thing that is really good to know about yourself. Like, where is it that you have strengths and where is it that you might have a little bit of a deficit or a little bit of a challenge there that you need to put some structures in place to support you in? And understanding your brain's processor can be super, super helpful in how you do business, because you're no longer trying to keep up to somebody else's standard. Like, if I held myself to the same standard that, I see my air and fire sign clients coming up with ideas and implementing them immediately, I would feel quite inadequate. I would feel a little bit depressed about how my business is going because I just can't move the information and the ideas through me at that rapid rate. I need a little bit more time to think, to process. But if you do have an air, and when I say an air, I'm talking about the signs of Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. If you have a Mercury in one of those signs, you're going to be able to take action quite quickly. You're going to get the insights coming through as well. You're going to want to communicate those ideas and spread those ideas quite quickly. Whereas somebody with a water Mercury, which would be Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces energy, they're going to want to, again, in a similar way to the earth signs, allow that to percolate, allow that to flow through them in some way before they let that information out into the world. It's like for earth and water signs, it has to almost move through our bodies. We have to move it through us. We have to create a process or allow ourselves to have that process and not feel bad that it's taking us longer. This is also true if you have a retrograde Mercury. So if you were born when Mercury was retrograde, it probably applies to about a third of us, a quarter or a third, I can't quite remember. But it applies to, a significant portion of people on the planet will have been born when Mercury is retrograde, because Mercury is retrograde 3 to 4 times a year. If you were born with Mercury retrograde, this can also impact your processing speed because Mercury is slower when it's retrograde. So this is another reason why it might take you longer to communicate your ideas or to move the idea through you and out into your business. And it's another reason to give yourself a bit of compassion, another reason to go, okay, this is my style. How can I work with that? How can I work with that processing speed to create things that will feel really good to me, that honor my processing speed, that honor the way that I think and the way that I communicate best? Because you have a certain style of processing doesn't mean that you're not going to resonate with somebody else's style of processing. For instance, just because I have an earth sign way of processing, just because I percolate on things before releasing them, doesn't mean that the information that I'm releasing isn't going to be really powerful and grounding to those air and fire sign people. That can be a really cool thing to be aware of. I know when I work with air and fire sign clients, they really appreciate the way that I can ground their ideas down. That has been a strength of mine throughout my business as a copywriter and as an astrologer and an online business strategist, that I can really help to ground people's ideas down, because that is a strength that I have, and that comes from having a slower processing speed. Now, if you have a fast processing speed, also honor this and go, okay, well, these ideas are coming through. I want to have a way that I can act on those, but I also probably need a way where I can ground them down. So you kind of want to have a bit of a balance there. There will be times in your business where you really want to be able to get things out quickly. And that's where, if you have this natural processing speed, you can work with this and maybe, do some impromptu lives, hop on a podcast and record ad hoc like I'm trying to do now, which is actually really difficult for me as an earth sign processor. Ordinarily, I script, or at least I write detailed notes for every episode that I record, and that is me honoring my process. Today, though, I decided I had a small window of opportunity while my baby is asleep in the bouncer next to me, and I thought, let's just do this thing because it came up in conversation yesterday, and so I'm responding to that. So if you can work in ways in your business to react more quickly in some ways, so if that you've got that air and fire processor, you really want to incorporate ways where you can act on that. And that would be, like I said, jumping on impromptu Instagram lives or doing some form of live stream, quick kind of thought downloads wherever you can. Be able to track those ideas. Make sure that you send voice notes when you have ideas to your team. Make sure that you're keeping notes somewhere of those great ideas as they come through. And also make sure you have a team that is adaptable, that can move with those great ideas, because it can be really hard for someone who has a really fast processing speed, lots of ideas coming through, if they have a team that really struggles with implementing things quickly and is not adaptable. So consider that. If you have the slower Mercury, or the more, I guess, I would say grounded or flowy, with the earth and the water, those kind of processing speeds, you want to have people on your team who can take your ideas and run with them. So you want to have people who can implement fast because you're processing slow. But you also want to have that balance of people who will keep the ideas feeling really good. The stuff that's coming through you, keep it in integrity with what you're trying to do. And I was having a conversation about this with my wonderful VA yesterday about how we can create something really tangible, because that's what feels really good to me as an earth sign entrepreneur, creating tangible things, products and services where people have an actual product, an actual something to walk away with at the end of the time with me. That's something that's really important. So I need someone who understands that in my team, who can go, okay, cool, let's create this tangible product. Let's be able to put these grounded ideas into practice in some way. So it's like you always need that balance, right? You need that balance of being able to create tangibility, ground the ideas, create a container for ideas and flow them along the line, but also have these sparks of inspiration and insight and connect the dots, which is something, air signs are great at, fire signs are great for that, inspiration. You really need a balance of that. And you especially need a balance of that in online business, because things are happening quite quickly. You need to be able to adapt and respond and implement. So I guess this episode is really about thinking about, what is your processing speed? How do you like to do things? How do you like to think things? How do you like to communicate things? How are you supported in your processing? How are you supported in your communication practices and your thinking processes? And how could you be supported better? What could you do differently? And if, of course, you want to dive into this further with me, I would really encourage you to hop on a Cosmic Business Breakthrough call. That's a one-on-one private call where we can dive so deep into how you think and communicate in your business, and how you can set up your team for more success, how you can set up your workflow for more success, all of that stuff. That's what we talk about on the call. Not to mention your branding and messaging as well, which is another critical component of working with your Mercury sign. I would love to hear your takeaways from this episode. What is your processing speed? Do you relate to what I'm saying? Have a wonderful week, and I will speak to you really soon. Thanks for joining me on the Cosmic Business Breakthrough. If you'd like to learn more about what I do, head to sophiapalace.com or follow me at Sophia Palace over on Instagram. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I'd love for you to take a moment and review the show if you found it helpful and share it with a few friends. Thanks again, and I'll speak to you next time.